G'day golfers. Ever found yourself redirecting blame and making excuses after having an absolute shocker on a golf course? I know that I have. Range was closed, I was a little cold, didn't warm up, I hit it in those 3 old divots. Then we have the podcast for you. We focus on how to fundamentally own your swing. Strike it pure and consistently shoot in the 70s. Be it if you're a weekend hack, retired and playing daily, a school phenom or a tour professional. We present and discuss facts and physics pertaining to golf, trying to keep our ego and opinion at bay. We dispel myths such as keep your head down, bend your knees, or my all-time favourite, game improvement irons. So stop drinking that mythical Kool-Aid and have a sip of ours. I think you'll find it both inspiring and refreshing. I'm Scott Young, founder of Swing, PGA professional and ex-tour player. Welcome to Pivot the Path. G'day golfers and welcome to Pivot the Path. We hoped you pivoted your path well over the last week. Rosemary and I have had a great week. Good week with the kids back playing lacrosse, lots of golf. We are into sport outside as the weather turns. Our improvement pivot point is to try and be very practical, say that 3 times quickly, with the clubs that are in your bag. And as we build more and more clubs in here, and unfortunately for golfers, I'm the poor honest Abe who explains the math of what's in their bag. And without being exaggerating at all, I'd say 95% of people who come to us here at Swing have the wrong clubs in their bag. And our whole business model is based on producing a game where the face is less than path. We're going to talk about what are your clubs, how to look for what's in your bag, and we'll get you to ensure that it doesn't have to be shiny and new. It just has to be mathematically correct. And that sounds very dorky, but it's very simple. So we'll get into that a little bit later. News from the fairway. We had Johnny Keefer, who just fired a lazy little 7 under in the 4th round to win his Korn Ferry event, finishing 30 under par. That is insane. So I presume the course was playing relatively easily. Josh Creel shot a tidy little 10 under round 4. Didn't even win. If I'm playing a 4-round event, I never had 10 under. Had close, had a couple of 8s. But if I'm playing 10, if I shoot 10 under on day 4, I'm thinking I've got half a chance and doesn't even win. So mate, Josh, I'm sure you'll win next week, or you're peaking. Obviously, it's funny watching these guys peak, ebb and flow. But 10 under, that's a hell of a round of golf. And then we get to the major. This is bizarre in the LPGA. We had the Chevron, their first major for the year. I didn't hear a thing about it in the media, either pre-leading up to the event or even during the event. I didn't see one ad. I didn't see one thing on PGA Tour. They didn't promote it at all. So it was actually a surprise to me turning it on Sunday night to see where we're at, to see it was their major. I didn't even hear about it. So LPGA, you've got to do better jobs talking to your customer. And the Japanese Mayo Saigo, she won in a 4-way playoff. So congratulations. She's only been an LPGA player for a couple of years. Wins her first major. I thought that was phenomenal. And again, LPGA, you got to do a better job talking to us. Say, hey, switch it on. It's a major event. DP Tour, we had Marco Penge, Englishman, at a tidy little 5 under to finish 17. Well done. Live, bloody Joaquin Niemann once again wins a Live event. That guy is going to win a major this year. He is playing such wonderful golf. And so well done, Joaquin. You know, Live, I'm really struggling with. There's no advertising. I never know when they're playing. I think the team's event sucks, but their players are such wonderful, wonderful guys to watch play golf. I just hope this merger kind of gets going because, Joaquin, I'd love to see you play some consistent PGA Tour week in, week out. Bryson played well. So US Open's coming up in a couple of weeks. So Joaquin Niemann, hopefully keep your form going there, mate. And obviously Lucas Herbert, Aussie. You might know Lucas. He's an Aussie. He's kind of flying under the radar for the last 4 or 5 years. And Lucas, we just love him on Instagram, and he's just a really funny, quirky. He's got some different ear things happening. You'll know when you see him. The kid can flat out play. He's a big strapping legs. He hits it a mile, and wouldn't be surprised if I had $500 to put on someone winning one of the majors as a dark horse. Lucas Herbert, chap who just came second in Live. Just check him out. His Instagram profile is very quirky. His caddy has this big old ZZ top beard, and they're just awesome. They really are good kids. I think he's young. He's under 30. So, Lucas, I really hope you keep plugging away. He dots around and plays quite a few different events. One thing you'll find with guys who just play PGA Tour, when the British Open comes, they struggle to play that knockdown win shot, and they struggle to play in different conditions other than absolutely perfect, right? And Lucas is the epitome of a touring pro because he's playing in Asia, then he's going to Europe, and then he's playing his live. And back in Australia, he's a guy who can play every different course condition. So, Lucas, shout out to you. I think he got a couple of mil for his second. And that leads us to PGA Tour. This is funny for me, right? So it's a Zurich event. It's the foursomes. It's alternate shot. But it's funny that they don't put it the week after the Masters, because the Masters is such a pressure cooker for the top 50, top 100. And I would have thought they would have given the guys off the next week, but the week following the Masters was a main PGA Tour event. And I would have thought, if I'm the PGA Tour, I'm sure they are far more organised than I, and I know they have their reasons, but I would put this event, the Zurich foursomes, where the teams play, so you play with a partner, straight after the Masters, because it's just a little less pressurized. So we had Jordan Novak and Ben Griffin, who won their first PGA Tour events. Now, the commentators said they won their first PGA Tour events. Well, they didn't really. It's not a single event. So to me, it was a team's event, but it does carry status. So these guys now get a start in all the majors, and they do get a start in all the signature events, which to me is a bit weird, but the PGA Tour know what they're doing. I don't really see them winning their first tour events as a pairs, but the media do. So I would put the foursomes event, the Zurich, unless Zurich themselves need it for a sponsors week, but I would put that Zurich straight after the Masters, because everyone's so emotionally, on the down low. It just gives these players a chance to relax a little. So I think it's fundamentally important we move that Zurich 1 week earlier. The arousal level coming off the Masters, you are going to be in an absolute rock bottom emotional state just from being fatigued. You're on for 6-7 days at the Masters, and it just gives them a time to be fresh. Now play the signature events the next 4 or 5, leading up to the US Open. So I'd love to see the PGA Tour put that Zurich 1 week ahead, which brings us to our improvement pivot point. And Rosemary, the boss, said, why don't we do something very practical today? So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about what clubs I've got in the bag. Why do I have them? They basically haven't changed in 25, 30 years. Now, that's not to say I'm not on cutting edge. That's just to say I own my swing, I own my bag, I know exactly what I need my clubs to do for what certain event. And what we're finding is I'm building, and unfortunately for our customers, fixing a lot of the top 6 manufacturers presenting clubs for people. I'm having to fix them. So then what we'd like to do is just show you another young kid who came into us. He's about 30. This young kid went to one of our competitors, and I actually fix more of the people who build clubs in here in the city. There's about 3 people who do it. And he said, look, these clubs aren't right. I don't know what's wrong with them, but can you fix them? And so I fixed them this weekend. One of them was broken. It's brand new. But I'd like to actually talk to you about what clubs this guy has in his bag. And he did come in and he was very honest. He said, look, I don't play a ton of golf. I got a young family. But our point is in owning your swing. With the equipment that he has in his bag, he actually will play poor golf because of the equipment exacerbated by his technique, but his technique will be created because of his equipment. And so what we always say in here is, hey, let's keep an idea of high and tight on facts and figures. This poor bastard in his clubs actually has the wrong clubs to make his enjoyable day. What's our focal point? Face less than path. And so for this particular individual, his clubs won't allow him to have face less than path. And I thought, well, that's a whole lot of a mouthful of BS. Why don't I explain it? So that's what we're going to do. So why don't we bugger lugs over to my bag? I'll explain what I've got in my bag and then just compare it to what this chap has, and we'll just talk clubs. Okay, what is in the bag? Let's start from the low end. I've got my low bounce 59. I had a 60 bent to 59. Low bounce meaning flat bottom meaning dig meaning hard ground. I have a low bounce club when the turf and the terrain is hard, and I've got a high bounce club for 99% of the time I'm using a wedge. The industry has it manipulated by tour players who speak to businessmen on how to build clubs, and businessmen aren't off scratch and are not golf pros. The entire industry has their wedges upside down. We need a high bounce and a low bounce club, right? Low bounce, we need the club to dig. High bounce, we need the club to bounce. You don't need 4 wedges in the bag. I've got 59. The industry over the last 30 years have said 4 degrees between wedges. No, you just have 5 degrees between wedges, and then you can have a little more freedom in your bag. And then I've got my pitching wedge and 9-iron. So I've got 4 clubs, pitching wedge being my go-to, and I've got the numbers on my clubs. So I've got my pitching wedge where I've got half to half, half to full, full to full. I'm going to play my entire round of golf half to half. That is, I'm going to try and get 102 meters in my hand with my pitching wedge, which is about 111, 112 yards. So I play golf backwards, so to speak. I'm going to start at the green and work backwards. So instead of working from the tee to the green, I'm just going to, couple of nights before, I've actually already half done it, I'm going to work backwards and go, well, if the green is 400 yards away from me, I want to get my 102 meters in my hand, half to half pitching wedge, because I know I'll hit the green every time, literally every time. I won't hit it, stump it every time, but I'll hit the green every time. And if I'm half decent and having a half decent day, I'll have about 4 or 5 pretty close birdie shots. So I go from the green, work back 100 meters and go, how do I get from the tee to give myself a 100-meter shot? So my pitching wedge is the most important club in the bag. I've got my irons here. I've got my 2 wedges, pitching wedge, and then I'm up to 3-iron. But I only play with half a set of clubs, right? Unless I'm playing in a pretty important event, you only need half a set of clubs, guys and girls. I'm here to tell you, it'll actually improve your ability to shot shape. I mean that absolutely sincerely. You do not need a full range of clubs. So if we take this guy's bag, for example, this guy has 4 wedges, okay? Both his wedges, what you got here, his 56 and his 60 are both the same bounce. They're 12 degrees, which is way too much on his 60. His 60 should have 0 bounce or 2-3 degrees. And his 56 has 12 degrees, which is not enough. So both his clubs have the same bounce. You've got to have one low bounce so it digs into hard ground. You've got to have one high bounce so it rebounds and bounces through topography. So his wedges don't set him up for success. He also has a pitching wedge and a 48. He doesn't need 4 wedges. Kid plays off about 17. More detrimental, and look, guys, we want to always be positive on our podcast, but this is probably going to represent at least 80% of golf bags. This is this chap's 8-iron, and what I got here was just a little T-square. This is really simple. So this guy's got his 8-iron, right? And it's a slightly offset club. You'll see there's a tiny gap between the leading edge of his golf club and his 8-iron face. However, when I get his 4-iron in, this is called progressively, meaning growing as we go, you'll see that his 4-iron has a huge gap. So therefore, what does that mean? This poor guy hasn't been set up for success, and this is every manufacturer in the industry. What they do is they grab the club face and they set it behind the leading edge of the golf shaft. We call it offset. So if I was to use my torso predominantly, my club face will aim left through impact. But if I have an offset golf club, even though my technique is encouraging my torso to be used, my club face will point the ball right. And with gear effect, as we've talked about, he can play some okay shots with very poor technique, but it reinforces poor technique. And over time, his lower back or her lower back will be succumb to pain, and his face will have to create ball flight. I think if you look at Bryson talks about this quite a lot. So I would argue that 80 to 90% of manufacturers have offset golf clubs. Just pull them out of your bag, right? Grab a little T-square. Everyone's got a T-square. And just make sure the leading edge is parallel to the leading edge of the golf face. All right, so there his irons. And then from there, what I'm going to get you to do is just look at the clubs you've got with driver. It doesn't need to be the newest, fanciest thing. My 3-wood is 35 years old. But technology with woods hasn't changed with fairway woods. Technology with driver has a little bit with the twist face. But the biggest thing I'm going to get you to do is turn the club, so hold the club toe up, rotate it toe down, put the toe in the ground and just push down on it. If the club bends, right, so this guy's driver is like a soft noodle. He's just dumped about $600 on this thing. Now the problem is, and he's been custom fit for this, it says a stiff golf shaft here, but it's clearly not. Okay, so what's the problem? Well, as he tries to use his or her, in this case his, this chap uses his hips to create speed. For every action, hip mobility, there's a reaction, the face opens. It is impossible to have this face less than path at impact. So now he's going to sacrifice good technique for the driver that he's got in the bag because he was fit very poorly. Easiest way to do it, grab the club out of the bag. If you can bend it, then you've got the wrong club. If I grab my driver to compare apples to apples, you'll see that I can hardly move that. And if you bend these upside down, this guy's moving a lot. So you'll see that the one on the right has actually a thicker shaft than the one on the left. Graphite is created with layer upon layer upon layer. So the thicker wall the shaft has, the less it's going to flex. So golfers, when you're preparing for your round, just take a second on your equipment. Okay, just make sure that your clubs are not fit for speed. A fundamental flaw is these manufacturers and club fitters say, what's your swing speed? What a lot of bullshit. It's force. As I rotate, for every action, there's an opposite reaction. The more I come from the inside, the more I load the golf club. The more I load the golf club, the more the club bends. I never, ever, and I think we're one of the best manufacturer builders in the country. Why? Because we build for load, not for speed. I can generate tons of speed at the top of my swing, swinging outside in. Machines will measure that as speed, but they won't measure load. And load is a bit of science. It's the profession of building clubs correctly. I've been building clubs. I first built clubs at Long Reef Golf Club with Jason Benham when I was about 22. So I've been building clubs for 30 years, just on. We're so passionate about clubs because it's easy to get right. Here's my 3-wood. It's an old Callaway Warbird. It is plus 30 years old and it's just as good as anything out on the market today. Why? Because it's light, it's fast, and it's super stiff, meaning that when I disassociate, use my hips, the face doesn't open. This poor bugger, when he uses his hips, his face will be open all day long. So he's got a $600 driver that's useless. And so I get frustrated that I'm the poor bastard bad guy who's got to say, unfortunately, mate, you've got to spend another couple of $100 to get it right, when it should have been done correctly. And I've been building clubs for so long, that's why we're taking ownership of this and we're presenting our own clubs. They will be non-offset, more to come on that later. Beauty golfers, look, you remember you can absolutely own your swing in this instance by taking a second to look at the equipment you have. Doesn't need to be shiny and new. It just needs to be mathematically correct, which is light and stiff. Come into swing, we can fix it up. We don't need to break the bank. You don't need a full set of clubs, and for God's sake, you don't need 4 wedges in the bag. If you're on tour, maybe, but you're not. So you only need 2 wedges, and you can have 5 degrees between those wedges to give you a bit of an option, because just to finish my bag, I've got a nice little 5-wood in my bag that I've been carrying, and I wish I had this on tour. So I hit my 5-wood about 230 meters, I hit my 3-wood about 250, and I hit my driver about 280 meters, about 310 yards. So I've got a gap between driver, 310 yards, 3-wood, 275, 5-wood, 250, 2-on or driving iron, I hit about 225 yards, and then I go down to my 3-wood. So what we're trying to do is gap the club correctly and have the right shaft. Golf clubs are all about shaft and non-offset heads. Thanks again for all the support with the newsletter. Remember, it comes out Friday. Send it to your mates. And remember, you can absolutely own your swing with the work you put into your game off the golf course. And we'll see you next week. Cheers.